In Kyiv, the government has declared a state of emergency, allowing it to start calling up reservists. Just in time, you might say. US intelligence and defense officials have reportedly warned Ukraine that Russia's forces are now 100% ready to invade. Once again, Washington claims an all-out attack is imminent, with the northeastern city of Kharkiv especially at risk. So what is different this time? The other region under threat is Donetsk, from where our international editor Lindsay Hilsum now joins us. Lindsay.
Matt, still no sign of that physical further invasion. But what we did have today was a major cyber attack. That's the second in about a week. So the parliament here is down, their website that is, and also several banks and the cabinet office and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, cyber experts say that that could be a prelude to a physical attack, or it could be just a thing in itself. There's this great sense of unknowing at the moment what's really going on. President Zelensky said today he wanted security guarantees from President Putin. Well, he's not going to get that, is he? And this state of emergency, yes, they can call up reservists, but it means different things in different parts of the country. Here in Donetsk, where I am, there's been a state of emergency since 2014, which is when the Russians moved in and basically took control of two areas which are controlled by what they call separatists, basically under Russian, the Russians tell them what to do and the Russians have now recognized them. Now, there's been a lot of fighting in that period and the shelling is increasing by the day. The Ukrainian army says one soldier and one civilian said today, and we killed today, and we certainly heard shelling as we drove around. The other thing we heard was a lot of patriotic fervor. In the past, many people in this area were really quite pro-Russian. Not anymore. People, they say, okay, we live with war, we know what it's like, but there is a certain amount of fear here, and there is also a sense that everybody is living in suspended animation. Here in Kramatorsk, the mood tonight is defiantly patriotic. People here may speak Russian as their first language, but they scoff at the idea of President Putin's protection.
We don't want war. Russians go away. It's our motto of our life now.
What will you do if the Russians come here?
We'll struggle. We'll defend our land, our Ukraine.
Tell me why you're here tonight.
Because I want to live in Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk, not in so-called Donetsk People Republic, not in Russia. I want to live in Ukraine, and I have come here tonight to tell it to the world, for you to know this as well.
A Grad rocket fired from Russian-controlled territory landed on the outskirts of the small nearby town of Shaistia yesterday. Today, New York, yes, that is what this little frontline town is called, was calm. Over the last 8 years, they've grown so used to the sound of shelling, no one even flinches. But they do flinch when you mention the Russians.
Мы их ненавидим, но не боимся. Пусть они сидят дома и не лезут к нам.
Many in these little towns used to favor Russia. So have they changed?
Можно сказать, что да. Да, дело в том, что как-то раньше мы были хорошими соседями, а сейчас не очень. И то, что, конечно, это все произошло по вине Путина. Я считаю, что Путин развязал эту войну, потому что ему нужна была территория.
Commercial satellite pictures indicate he may want more. They show a new deployment of more than 100 military vehicles and dozens of troop tents in southern Belarus near the Ukraine border, and a new field hospital. Last night, Russian diplomats abandoned their embassy in Kyiv after apparently burning boxes of documents. Today, the French and the Germans were meeting in Berlin to discuss more sanctions if Russia does go further. The soldiers interred in the military section of the Kharkiv cemetery have been killed fighting Russia and Russian-backed separatists since 2014. Ukrainians fear that their whole country's future is being stolen and all they can do is wait.
Lindsay Hilson there, reported from Kramatorsk. Well, earlier I spoke to the Russian international relations specialist Dmitry Suslov from the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. He speaks in a personal capacity, but he is close to the Russian government. I asked him if so-called Russian peacekeepers would advance even further into the Donbass region, or would the situation now de-escalate?
It depends pretty much on the West. And the current signals are not encouraging. Look, Vladimir Putin delivered a 1-hour-long speech when the decision on the recognition of Donetsk and Lugansk was taken. About half of that speech was devoted to very serious enumeration of the military risks, not just geopolitical, societal military risks that, according to Vladimir Putin, Russia faces from Ukraine as a result of the military cooperation between Ukraine and NATO. And recognition of Donetsk and Lugansk does not solve those risks at all. They continue to exist. And it is absolutely wrong to assume that what Russia did is everything that Russia can do. It is absolutely wrong to assume that now Russia will relax, that Russia got what it wanted. No. I mean, those risks, they continue to exist. So we have preconditions for further very real escalation.
So you expect those Russian troops to cross the current line of control, which means that you expect there to be war in Ukraine?
I do not expect an escalation in the very near short prospect, in, let's say, tomorrow or the next several days. But in the middle term prospect, if there is no dialogue between Kiev and Donetsk and Lugansk on the one hand, and much more seriously, if there is no dialogue between Russia and the United States and NATO on broader security issues, then I think further escalation is absolutely likely.
In the medium to long term, then, do you expect Vladimir Putin to try and take the whole of Ukraine if he doesn't get what he wants from NATO and the Americans?
Every limited step is accompanied by a pause, where Russia waits for the reaction, right? Now Russia, again, made it very clear that Russia is serious, that it is quite ready to go further. If there is no progress in terms of security negotiations, if there is no progress in terms of addressing the risks that Putin identified in his speech, Russia will go further.
Right. The reason why we talk to you, Dmitry, is that you give us an insight into the Kremlin's thinking, into Putin's thinking. But I put it to you, despite the very logical outline of these steps, a lot of this is based, frankly, on paranoia, and some of it on lies. I mean, the claim that there was genocide against the people of, the Donbass region, it's just nonsense. There's no evidence for it. And again, the threat from NATO is very much in the eye of the Kremlin, in the eye of Putin. So is he not risking, frankly, world war with the United States, with NATO, by acting on these perceived threats?
There were very many independent interviews with the refugees that are now in Russia in big numbers from Donetsk and Lugansk.
Dmitry, it's nonsense. Do you know it's nonsense?
No,
Come
they
on.
say that they are bombed. They say that they have been living in hell
it's not genocide.
For 7 years. I'm sorry, but this is what we hear from those people, and this is not the Russian state TV. These interviews were made by independent journalists, right? And of course, no one uses the term genocide, but everyone says that they are constantly bombed and shelled, and that the Ukrainian troops are waging war against those people. So, we simply will not agree on that. You say this is nonsense. I say that what you are saying is nonsense. As for risking of the world war, well, thanks God, in the nuclear age, it is quite unlikely. And the position of the United States is very clear up to now and will continue to be clear beyond, that no American soldier, and I assume no NATO soldier in general, will fight directly against Russia in Ukraine.
But Dmitry, even in the absence of an all-out war between NATO and Russia, it could very well be a regional war with tens of thousands of casualties. For what? for the sake of settling what is largely a geopolitical academic argument about security. That is nonsense, surely.
Well, I think that Russian leadership, not just Vladimir Putin, but many others, considers Ukraine as existential issue for Russia. Existential issues are those on which you are ready to fight wars.
Dmitry Suslov, thank you very much indeed.